I know you're out there. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
The KrisAnne Hall Show.
Any varmint that crosses that lady's path has met its match. Come
on! Rise and shine, liberty-loving patriots. Welcome to the KrisAnne Hall Show. KrisAnne Hall here, KrisAnnehall.com. Liberty over security, principle over party, and truth over your favorite personality. Some updates on some old stories and some new stories today. We're going to do an update on Apple. One of the most disturbing things I've learned about in this whole Apple thing. Very, very disturbing what our FBI is doing, or rather, has done. Not only that, once again, we have the Republican GOP establishment acting as hypocrites. This is why, exactly why, I say we can no longer vote the lesser of two evils. That we cannot vote just any Republican, because just any Republican is no different than the Democrats sometimes. And I want to show you this is the perspective of the establishment GOP. The very ones that are running to you and telling you we need a Senate majority, we need a House majority, we need a president to be a Republican, are now saying that if it's not their guy, they don't want a Republican, they'll vote for a Democrat. Possibly. And then you're not going to believe, or perhaps you will, what Health and Human Services is up to now. You better hope that your children are not in government schools. You better hope that your children are not in government programs. You better hope that your family is not receiving any type of benefit from the government whatsoever regarding your children. And you better hope you're not signed up for Obamacare. Because HHS' next step is to assume full control over your children, regardless of your wants, your desires, and your wishes. This is not hyperbole. This is not exaggeration. This is not apocalyptic fear talk. I'm going to read to you the very document from HHS itself. It is the HHS draft document. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, U.S. Department of Education, you know, they're all tied together now. Draft policy statement on family engagement from the early years to the early grades. Cradle to grave. Your child is no longer your own. And I have been placed on the Southern Law, what is that again? Southern Poverty Law Center's list of anti-government extremist groups. Me. Listed, KrisAnne Hall, as an anti-government extremist group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. I feel like I've won the Oscars. How awesome is that? To be dubbed an extremist anti-government group. I'm a group now. Apparently the Southern Poverty Law Center considers me big enough to be a group. There's not a single other individual person named on that list. Just me. Everybody else is like an actual group. How crazy is that? We're going to talk about that again today too. But let's get into this idea that the Apple company has got to provide the FBI with a backdoor access to their phones. Now let's remember, okay? Let's remember that Apple does not own your phone, right? You legally and completely purchased your phone from Apple. They have, this is the crazy thing, legally they have no ownership claim to your phone. Can Apple come and repossess your phone? Can Apple take your phone back once you've purchased it? Nope. They have not. They have no right to do that. So, how is it that the FBI can assert that Apple has control over your phone even after you purchase it? Well, that's what they're asserting. Apple, we want you to give us access to these phones that don't belong to you, but belong to the people who bought them. But we're simply going to assume that you have ownership of them even though you don't own them anymore. So that you can create a backdoor for us so that we can get into these phones, here's the key, without a warrant. How crazy is that? If that's true, then after your contractor builds your house and you pay for it completely, you don't own your house. The contractor does, and he can come and change the locks on the doors or give somebody the keys and let them have access to your house. Because this is a bold and radical statement on property ownership in America. I'll remind you that our government doesn't think you built anything, right? You didn't build that, so you don't own that. And even if you buy that, you don't own that. I wonder if it's because the government thinks that all property belongs to them, that all money belongs to the government, that maybe you just simply have money because they allow you to keep it. And if they allow you to keep money, then what you purchase with that money is is still ownership of the government because it's their money you're buying it with. It's sort of like, living in your parents' home and they give you money to buy a car. Well, it's not really your car, is it? It's just mommy and daddy's car because they just gave you the money to buy it. Is that what we've become? A bunch of people living in mommy and daddy's house, living on mommy and daddy's money. I don't think that's a very large stretch anymore. That the government thinks that all money belongs to them and that you only have money because they allow you to keep their money. I mean, think about it. Is it really your money anymore, or is it the government's money? Because if you don't pay your taxes, is it because it's your choice to pay them? Or will the government come and take their money by force? I mean, what kind of due process do you actually have to secure your money and your property from the government? Just ask the farmers and the ranchers fighting the BLM and the National Forestry Service. What kind of ownership they have. What kind of due process they have to secure their land. See, I think we're really getting to the bottom of this these days, because I think this is what it is. The government has been saying for quite some time, you didn't build that, alluding to the fact that the only thing that you have is because the government has allowed you to have it. These are the things they actually believe now. And I'm not hearing any opposition from the Republicans over this either. Because it's all about power, isn't it? And now there's an article on a website called Apple Insider. These are Apple people. Apple people writing about the FBI's demand for a backdoor. Here's the subtitle by this article. Let me see if I can find the author. Daniel Aaron Dilger of Apple Insider, written on Thursday, February 25th. He says, actions by the leadership of the Federal Bureau of Investigation over the past month related to the San Bernardino encryption issue demonstrates a shocking level of dishonest and callous disregard for the nation's core principles of democracy. Okay, just skip over the democracy. You know what it is. FBI Director James B. Corney should issue a formal apology or resign his post based on this shocking level of dishonesty and callous disregard for the people's right to secure their persons, houses, papers, and effect. So here's the crux of this. We'll get into this in a little bit more detail, but the crux is Apple worked in the past, have worked with in the past with the FBI to advise the police on ways that discovered phone data can be retrieved. But the FBI admitted that instead of working under the mechanisms of FBI's of Apple's advice, but they instead instructed San Bernardino County, who is possessing the phone, to reset the phone's Apple ID. The FBI told San Bernardino County to reset Apple phone's Apple ID, which had the effect of making it impossible to trigger the backup of additional data that Apple had made available to the FBI. See, they told them, look, this is what you need to do to get the backup data. And instead of doing that, they reset the Apple ID, which made it impossible for them to get the data. Why would they do that?
KrisAnne Hall Show. She's Liberty's lobbyist.
So what we need to realize here is that the FBI violated the Apple ID on purpose. They are creating this situation. They are forcing this issue. Why? Why can't they just get a warrant? Why can't they have just done what Apple told them? Because they know that even if the password hadn't been changed, and Apple could have turned on the auto backup and loaded it to the cloud, there was still information that they could not get because of the encryption. You see, it's the encryption that they hate. It's the encryption that is preventing them from getting into every single aspect of your data and your phone. It's they can't get a warrant for these things because legislators won't pass the laws. The courts say, no, this is too deep. And the companies won't do it willingly. And so what they're trying to do is force them to do it because they can't get a warrant. They can't. The director of the FBI, Comey, says that the encryption has eroded our ability to obtain electronic information and evidence pursuant to a court order or a warrant. Why can't they get a court order? Who cares? If they can't get a court order, they don't have authority to have that. You see, Comey has tried to push legislation to outlaw encryption, but he failed. And after failing to mandate this iOS backdoor. They're looking for a way forward. So they created the problem. They say, well, look, we've accidentally done this. So there's no way around it. We can't even get the stuff that you were supposed to give us. So now we want you to make sure that we have access to everything. We're talking about 2 months after the phone was covered. The FBI is now pushing this All Writs Act order. It's absolutely crazy to use this All Writs. We talked about this in the last show, about using this All Writs Act order as a catch-all for demanding that they do everything. But you see, it's not what they're looking for. It's not. They're saying it's not a backdoor, but it is a backdoor. They're saying this one case. All these things are not true. They failed to follow Apple's instructions on purpose so that they could push the issue to have a backdoor because they cannot get a warrant. I want you to listen to the testimony in 2015 of the Director of Homeland Security with Rand Paul. This is what this is all about. This is about busting encryption. This is not about catching the terrorists in San Bernardino. This is not about bringing evidence. Wait, what's there to catch? It's about the FBI having, and the federal government in general, because this is a Department of Homeland Security issue too. This is not just the FBI. Having unlimited access to every single Apple phone on the planet. It's not about unlocking the phone. Because they know Apple can't unlock it. Because there is no master key that exists anywhere. They're demanding new software. Why? Because they can't get a warrant. So let's set the background for this. Senator Rand Paul is questioning Secretary Jay Johnson from the Department of Homeland Security at a congressional hearing on April 29th, 2015 about the bulk metadata collection of the Department of Homeland Security, the federal government in general, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, anybody who wants to do that. Because you realize that if the Department of Homeland Security has the authority to do this, then every branch of the federal government has the authority to do this, because they have now created these coalitions and these groups that all work together. Remember, the Food Safety Modernization Act now has 10 executive agencies that work together as a coalition to keep your food safe, which means if the Department of Homeland Security can seize your phone data, so can the FDA and the EPA. So Rand Paul is questioning Jay Johnson, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. And when we get back after the break, I'm going to play his testimony.
So don't let them steal your life. There is light on the other side. You'll see all the raindrops falling me. It's a revolution.
The KrisAnne Hall Show. She's Liberty's lobbyist.
Thank you, Secretary Johnson, for your testimony. Do you believe the Fourth Amendment applies to third-party records?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by third-party records, sir. What do you mean?
The telephone company records.
You're asking me a legal question.
It's a pretty big question.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sorry, Senator. I'm not sure I know how to answer that.
Do you believe the government has the right to have bulk collection of records from millions of individuals without a warrant?
I see. That is, I respectfully say that is beyond my competence as the Secretary of Homeland Security to answer in any intelligent legal way. I wouldn't want to hazard a legal judgment on that.
Here's the problem, though. I mean, your agency's in charge of cooperating and being part of this. And that's the whole debate we have in our country is over whether you should do this. And your testimony, you complain about encryption. Why do you think that companies are choosing to go in the direction of more encryption? It's because they feel you're taking our information without a warrant.
The problem we have is that the marketplace is demanding deeper and deeper encryption into places where the warrant authority of the government does not extend. So the analogy I used last week in that speech was, imagine after the advent of the telephone, the warrant authority of the government only extends to the U.S. mail.
I'm not sure I understand that. Why would the warrant authority not extend?
Because with encryption, there are communications that records of which are simply not being maintained because of the added security that is being put in place because of the privacy demands that exist in the marketplace.
Which is a response to the government collecting all of our records.
So you see, the problem here is they can't get a warrant. That's why they don't even want to try anymore. So what they're trying to do is force the issue by lying, by being dishonest, about blaming Apple. I mean, cannot even believe that I saw on Fox News a headline, Apple blamed for covering for the terrorists or something crazy like that. I mean, it was absolutely insane. This is the mentality that we have today. And they're lying. They're absolutely lying. And now we have got to come to grips with the fact that we live where the federal government is not even above lying, murdering people in the streets, stealing, robbing, pillaging, plundering, just to get their way. Just to get more power. What exactly is safe in America anymore? What exactly do you own anymore? I wonder. When will the illusion of freedom pass by? When will we wake up and see that Americans have become enslaved and we don't even realize it? The Department of Justice has created a division to combat domestic terrorism. And now I am on a list from the Southern Poverty Law Center as a anti-government extremist group. Do you know who else is on that list? The John Birch Society, the Freedom Law School, Sarasota Patriots, Tri-County Tea Party. These are just the people in Florida. There are 33 groups in Florida. A group called We Are Change, which has groups in Orlando, Palm Beach, Port St. Lucie, Tampa, Cape Coral, Dunedin, Fort Lauderdale, Hudson, Jacksonville, Naples, Newport Richey, North Palm Beach, Sanford, Tampa, Tarpon Springs. Really? Your groups. Eagle Forum is on this group. Oath Keepers are on this group. Eagle Forum, they teach kids how to be legislators from a Christian perspective. So I want you to see what is going on here. I want you to see that they are trying to do this because they hate the Constitution. Why am I on a list? Why am I on a list as anti-government extremist? Because I am pro-Constitution. That's why I'm on a list as an anti-government extremist, because I am pro-Constitution. How crazy is that? This is what happens when government is out of control. When government is out of control and there is no respect for the Constitution of the United States, then teaching the Constitution of the United States is an anti-government extremist position. That's like telling a contractor who teaches his employees to follow blueprints that he is anti-building. The Constitution is the blueprint for government. How can I be an anti-government extremist when I teach the blueprint for proper government? Are your contractors anti-building now because they now follow the blueprints to create your house? This is complete and total lack of... Well, it isn't logic because it's not supposed to be logical. It's supposed to be insightful. It's supposed to be name-calling, ad hominem attack. It's supposed to just incite your emotions. It's supposed to bring fear. This is intimidation. I will not be intimidated. I am sorry. It will not happen. I have no fear of intimidation from the government because I am standing for what is right and what is true. And what are they going to do? Take my birthday? They can throw me in prison? So what? I'll preach in from prison. They can't take anything from me that is of any real value or worth. And if they take my life, I'm going home to see Jesus. So I'm going to tell you what. I am going to fight for liberty, regardless of the names that they call me. Why? Because I don't care what they call me. It makes no difference to me, the names that they call me. Because my liberty is worth more than my name. And it's not only that. It's not the liberty that belongs to me. It belongs to my child. He says, listen to what Benjamin Franklin said. It is a common observation here that our cause is the cause of all mankind, and that we are fighting for their liberty in defending our own. The liberty of all mankind depends on us standing against Jay Johnson and the FBI and the BLM. I'm not anti-government. I am for proper government authority. I am anti-tyranny. And if the government calls me anti-government, then they've just classified themselves, right? Because it is clear I am pro-Constitution. And if by teaching the Constitution I am anti this government, then they have classified themselves, and I don't need to even say anymore, do I? They are anti-government. And where are the Republicans? We are Rand Paul. But I'll remind you that John McCain, when he was interviewed in 2013 by Politico, said that if there was a choice between Rand Paul and Hillary Clinton, that it would be a tough choice. That John McCain would seriously consider voting for Hillary Clinton over Rand Paul. How stinking hypocritical is that? They preach to the Republicans all day long and twice on Tuesday that you must vote a Republican regardless of who it is. The lesser of two evils battle. And now we have these hypocrites, after bullying and brainwashing Republican voters to choose the lesser of Republican evils over every Democrat possible. Not only in the past saying that they would support Hillary Clinton over Rand Paul, but now we have Mitch McConnell attacking Donald Trump. Now, this is not an endorsement of Donald Trump on my part in any way, shape, or form. This is an indictment on the Republican establishment. McConnell has told the Republican senators that if Trump wins the nomination, that they should start creating anti-Trump ads and start creating a distance between Trump and the senators by creating these anti-Trump ads, so that when Hillary Clinton becomes president, these senators will be able to maintain their positions in the Senate and maintain the position that a Senate majority of Republicans is necessary check on a President Hillary Clinton. Are you catching that? Mitch McConnell declaring that the presidential nominee chosen by the people as a Republican is not an accepted lesser of two evils. And that the Republican senators should create anti-Trump ads to go against the Republican nominee that the people of the Republican Party have chosen, so that they can assure that Hillary Clinton becomes president and they can maintain the Senate majority. They're trying to keep their own jobs. This is why George Washington said that the party system would be destructive of the republic. Do you really believe that voting the lesser of two evils is the way to go now? When the same party says no, we won't do it.
Hate me if you won't, or love me if you can. If the truth is what you want, then you found your man. I ain't backing down, I ain't backing up. If you think like I think, then crack it on up. I won't back up, I don't back down. I've been raised up to stand my ground. Take my job, but not my guns. Tax my check till I ain't got none, except for the good Lord up above. I answer to no one.
The KrisAnne Hall Show. She's Liberty's lobbyist.
So as promised, we are going to now talk about the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, U.S. Department of Education draft policy statement on family engagement from the early years to the early grades. They say the purpose of this policy statement is to provide recommendations from the U.S. Departments of Health and Human Services and Education on systematically engaging families in their children's development, learning, and wellness across early childhood and elementary education. The government wants you to get involved in your child's life. Isn't that amazing? But I want you to see what this document actually says. It gives us the government's perspective on your child. We refer to, they said, quote, we refer to family engagement as the systematic inclusion, and I can't hardly even talk about this like this, as the systematic engagement of families as partners in the children's development, learning, and wellness. The federal government believes that the families are their partners in the raising of our children. It's not just one quote. They are continually throughout this document referring to the partnerships between the families and the government to raise children. When did the government become a partner with parents in raising the children? No, wait a minute. This is not even the perspective that they're giving. That the parents are the partners with the government. That's the proper description here. Parents are partnering with government. See, government is already engaged in your child's life, HHS, the Department of Education says. Now we need to get parents to partner with the government. Meeting families where they are, promoting their wellness alongside their children's through connections to community resources, and partnering with them on their children's learning and development. The federal government is wanting you to partner with them in the raising of your children. You see, I believe this is what happens when we issue marriage licenses by government. Because you see, when government issues a marriage license, they become a party to the contract between the parents. It's a legally binding contract with the government. They've given you permission to be married, and so therefore they are now a party in the marriage contract. And once the government is a party in the marriage contract, then they are a party with any product of the marriage contract, and the children are a product of the marriage contract, which means that the government is a party to that. And because the government allowed you to get married and the product of that marriage is your child, then they are the proper, at least 1/3, but I'm sure they would assert 1/2 owners of your children. And now they want you to partner with them in the raising of your children. Do you see that this is an assertion of ownership over your children? Whether you partner with them or not is irrelevant. They're still going to do what they want through Health and Human Services and Department of Education. You send your children to a government school. They're going to teach whatever they want that child to be taught. They're just throwing you a bone. Be a partner with us. But if you don't, so what? We'll do it anyway. Partnering to improve student outcomes. Partnerships to support positive student outcomes. The government believes because they have now been raising our children for generations that they are the owners of our children. And I want to ask you, parents, how do you feel about that? Because this is straight from the United Nations. This idea that government owns children and that parents should partner with government to raise their children. This is an ultimate fundamental right. And where do we stand? It's about time we get back our local governments and get this federal government under control. Your only defense against a federal government is a strong local government. God bless. See you tomorrow.